The fall before the rise, hook and setup. A lone distress signal echoed across the quiet reaches of space. It came from a remote station called Outpost Vega 9, located near the far edges of human territory. The signal repeated in a shaky voice, full of fear and urgency. "This is Outpost Vega 9. We are under attack. We need help. They are coming. Please." Then, only silence. Commander Adrian Cole stood on the bridge of the United Human Nations Starship Vanguard, listening to the final moments of that message. The mood on the bridge was tense. Each member of the crew could sense that something terrible was happening. Outpost Vega 9 was far from any major military base. It was a peaceful mining colony where families lived and worked. Nobody expected a violent threat in that quiet region. Lieutenant Harris, the Vanguard's communication officer, tried to reconnect with the outpost. He tapped his console again and again, but there was no answer, only static. "Commander," Harris said, his voice tight, "I can't raise them. It's just dead air now." Cole's jaw clenched. The United Human Nations had not fought a serious war for many years. Their last conflict with an alien race, the Salax, had ended in a shaky peace. Most people believed the galaxy was now safe. Yet here was a distress call that spoke of a new kind of danger. "Lieutenant, what is our distance to Outpost Vega 9? Cole asked. "We are the closest vessel, sir," Harris replied. "No other ships can reach them faster. The next nearest UHN fleet is 2 days away. If we don't act now." He did not finish the sentence. Cole understood. If they delayed, there would be no one left to rescue. Without hesitation, Cole turned to his navigation officer. "Plot a course for Outpost Vega 9. Engage FTL drive as soon as possible." The Vanguard's engines roared to life, and the ship surged forward into faster-than-light travel. Inside, the crew made quick preparations. Weapons officers checked the cannons and missiles. Engineering teams increased shield capacity. Medical bays prepared for any emergency. Each member felt the weight of this mission, sensing that whatever awaited them at Vega 9 would be unlike anything they had faced before. Moments later, the Vanguard dropped out of FTL above the desolate remains of Outpost Vega 9. The view on the main screen made everyone fall silent. Where there should have been a busy station, there was only shattered metal. Pieces of the outpost drifted through space, glowing with small fires and sparks. Broken beams spun slowly in the darkness, and the faint hiss of escaping atmosphere flickered through the ship's sensors. Cole stood from his command chair, struggling to make sense of the tragedy. "Scan for survivors," he ordered. Lieutenant Harris' fingers moved quickly over the console. After a few seconds, his face fell. "No human life signs detected, sir." Cole took in a long breath, trying to steady himself. "Any sign of the attackers?" Harris hesitated. "There is. A single ship on sensors. Unknown design. No known markings. It's hovering near the largest fragment of the station." When the view on the main screen shifted, the crew saw something strange. The unidentified ship was dark and shaped in ways no one recognized. It pulsed with a red glow that seemed alive, as if breathing. Cole's chest tightened. "Hail them," he said. "Tell them to identify themselves." Harris sent out the standard greeting on all frequencies. Minutes passed with no response. The alien ship floated quietly, like a predator watching its prey. Then, without warning, it opened fire. Red beams of energy slammed into the Vanguard's shields. Consoles crackled, and the ship lurched with the impact. Alarms shrieked through the corridors. "Shields are down to 60%. One officer yelled. "Return fire," Cole commanded, his voice firm. The Vanguard's forward cannons lit up, sending bursts of plasma at the enemy craft. But the alien ship moved with inhuman speed, dodging each shot. It circled around, unleashing another barrage that rocked the Vanguard harder. Sparks flew across the bridge, and the lights flickered. Cole could see they were outmatched. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. Before the Vanguard could reposition, the alien vessel vanished in a sudden flash of red light. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. No trace, no signal. "Where did it go?" demanded Cole, gripping the edge of his console. Harris scrambled to search every sensor. "I don't know, sir. There's nothing on any scanner. It's like it disappeared completely." Silence filled the bridge as the Vanguard's crew faced the ruin of Outpost Vega 9. Thousands of lives were lost. A single, terrifying attacker had struck and vanished. No one had answers for what they witnessed. Cole felt a heaviness in his chest, a mixture of grief and anger. This was more than a random attack. It was a warning, a dark sign of things to come. He could see the fear on his crew's faces, but he refused to back down. "We will find whoever did this," Cole said quietly, his voice strong despite the chaos, "and we will make them answer for it." He looked across the bridge. Every person was shaken, yet determined. They all felt the same raw emotion. Humanity had been challenged, perhaps by an enemy stronger and stranger than any they had known. But humans would not surrender. In that moment, Commander Adrian Cole made a silent promise. They would uncover the truth behind this unthinkable act, and they would not rest until those responsible were found. Though they had only just arrived, the Vanguard's mission was already clear. A single distress signal had changed everything. Now, humanity's rage was stirring, ignited by the shadows that lurked beyond known space. This was only the beginning. Shadows in the void, rising tension. Commander Adrian Cole stood at the center of the Vanguard's bridge, surrounded by shattered hopes. The remains of Outpost Vega 9 floated outside in a silent graveyard of twisted metal and drifting debris. Just moments ago, an unknown attacker had struck them with terrifying force, then vanished without a trace. Lieutenant Harris hovered over the sensor console, his eyes scanning rows of data. "Commander," he began, trying to keep his voice steady, "I'm picking up strange readings from the station's ruins. Some kind of energy signature is pulsing in the debris field." Cole's brow furrowed. "Is it the enemy ship?" Harris shook his head. "No, sir. The enemy ship left no signal at all. This seems different, almost like a beacon or a device left behind." Lieutenant Commander Reynolds, Cole's second-in-command, stepped forward. "Could it be a trap?" he asked quietly. Cole considered this possibility. Everything about the attack on Vega 9 felt like a dark puzzle. The unknown enemy was fast, powerful, and beyond anything the crew had faced before. "We need answers," he said finally, "and we won't find them by staying at a distance." He turned to Harris. "Prepare a drone. We'll send it into the debris field. Let's see what this energy signature is." "Yes, sir," Harris answered, moving quickly to relay orders to the flight deck. Within minutes, a small spherical drone launched from the Vanguard's hangar bay. It whirred through the vacuum, weaving between twisted beams of metal and shattered modules that had once been part of a living station. The drone fed real-time visuals to the bridge screens. Cole's stomach tightened as he saw glimpses of the tragedy up close. Frozen bodies of station workers drifted in the vacuum, their faces locked in terror. Fires flickered where oxygen still leaked from broken sections. The scene was grim, a stark reminder of what had happened here. Then, the drone's camera picked up something unusual. Amid the broken corridors and shattered glass, a red glow pulsed steadily. It seemed to come from a sealed container lodged behind a collapsed bulkhead. "Harris, can you pinpoint that glow?" Cole asked. Harris tapped his console. "It's the source of the energy reading, sir. The signal is weak, but it's there." "Is it dangerous?" Reynolds asked. Harris hesitated. "Uncertain. It's definitely not human technology, though. The energy pattern is more advanced, or at least very different." Cole felt a chill. First, the unknown ship, now an alien device. The puzzle grew more complicated by the second. Can the drone retrieve it? The flight deck confirmed that the drone had a small manipulator arm. "Yes, Commander," an operator said over the comm. "We can try to attach a tether and tow it out." "Do it." Carefully, Cole ordered. The bridge crew watched as the drone extended its tiny arm. Sparks flew when it made contact with the alien container, but after a tense moment, the drone latched on. Slowly, it backed away, pulling the device free from the wreckage. Suddenly, the bridge lights flickered. Harris gasped. "Commander, we're experiencing a surge in the readings. The device's energy output is spiking." On screen, the container started to pulse faster. The red glow brightened, lighting up the debris field like a warning beacon. "Drone operator, cut the tether. Now," Cole commanded. "Get that thing away from the ship." But it was too late. A burst of alien energy erupted, and the drone's video feed went white with static. The console screens glitched, and the Vanguard sensors began to fluctuate wildly. "Commander, we lost the drone," Harris shouted. "All systems are going haywire. I'm detecting an electromagnetic wave moving toward us." An eerie hum resonated through the hull, as if something was brushing against the ship. For a brief moment, the lights dimmed, and then a shudder ran through every deck. Cole's heart pounded. Shields up. Brace for impact. But no physical attack came. Instead, the ship's instruments read an internal disturbance. Lights flickered again, and in the halls outside the bridge, crew members gasped in confusion. "They're here," someone whispered. Cole froze. "Who's here?" Reynolds checked a wall monitor. "Sir, we've got unidentifiable readings inside the ship. Entities appearing in the lower decks. They must have piggybacked on that energy surge." A heavy silence gripped the bridge. This was not a standard boarding action. The mysterious attackers had somehow phased directly inside the Vanguard, using the station's strange device. Cole took a measured breath. "Seal off the lower decks. Send security teams armed with everything we've got. Plasma rifles, stun grenades, whatever might slow them down. We can't let these intruders spread through the ship." Harris's eyes darted across his console. "Yes, sir. But be advised, we still don't know what we're dealing with." Cole nodded, feeling the weight of his responsibility like a lead anchor. "I know," he said quietly. "But we'll do whatever it takes to protect this crew and find out the truth behind this threat. Failure is not an option." As the ship's alarms began to wail, the Vanguard prepared for a new kind of battle, one that took place not out in the stars, but within its own corridors. And all the while, out the window, the ruins of Outpost Vega 9 glowed with a dim, haunting light. The unseen enemy, escalation and discovery. A tense silence filled the corridors of the Vanguard as the intruders began their silent takeover. Alarms rang in distant sections, echoing off steel walls. Commander Adrian Cole paced on the bridge, eyes locked on the tactical display. Red dots, representing hostile signals, flickered across several lower decks. But the signals were erratic, as if the intruders drifted in and out of normal space. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds stood nearby, directing security squads through the ship's intercom. "Team Alpha, secure Corridor G. Team Bravo. Sweep the engineering conduits. Watch your flanks. These things move fast." Cole clenched his fists, recalling how the enemy ship had vanished without a trace at Outpost Vega 9. Now, a part of that same mysterious force was here, on board. How could they fight an enemy that seemed to defy physics? His thoughts whirled with questions, but he had to focus. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A cold rush of air swept through the bridge, sending a chill down every spine. The overhead panels buzzed, and the main screen wavered, distorting the view of empty space outside. "Commander," Lieutenant Harris shouted from the sensor station, "I'm reading a localized energy surge on Deck 9. It's similar to the pattern we saw in the debris field." Reynolds met Cole's gaze, his expression grim. "They're trying to replicate that surge, maybe to open some kind of portal or gateway." Cole inhaled sharply. If these intruders created a gateway on board, they could bring in more forces, or even worse, pull the Vanguard into their realm. The risks were too great. "Lieutenant Commander," he said firmly, Take a team down there and shut it down. Whatever it is, we can't let them finish." Reynolds nodded and hurried off the bridge, followed by 2 security officers in heavy body armor. As they raced to Deck 9, the corridors flickered with dim emergency lighting. Smoke seeped from damaged panels, and the temperature continued to drop. Strange whispers echoed along the walls, as if the intruders were everywhere at once. When Reynolds reached the energy signature's location, he found a twisted scene. The corridor walls were warped, as though reality had been bent by a giant hand. Floating in the center of the hallway was a swirling patch of dark energy, speckled with red sparks. It pulsed slowly, like a living heartbeat. One of the security officers stepped forward with a scanner. "Sir, these readings are off the charts. It's drawing power from our reactors, but it's also—" His voice caught in his throat when a shadow shifted in the corner of his eye. "Contact left," another officer yelled. They spun around to see a tall, vague shape drifting through the bulkhead as though it wasn't solid. The shape's limbs elongated unnaturally, reaching for the team. Shots rang out, but the energy rounds passed through the intruder without harming it. Reynolds' pulse thundered in his ears. "Fall back. Regroup at the junction." The officers backed away, but the swirling portal continued to grow, cracks spreading across the walls and ceiling. Back on the bridge, Cole listened to Reynolds' frantic updates over the comm. "We can't stop them with normal weapons, Commander," Reynolds shouted, his voice echoing with fear. "They're warping reality around us. The corridor is collapsing." Cole grimaced, knowing that brute force alone wouldn't solve this. "Reynolds, retreat and seal Deck 9 if you must," he ordered. "I'll see if Dr. Carter has any insight." Dr. Evelyn Carter, the ship's chief scientist, stood at a nearby console. She was already scanning the data pouring in from the conflict zones. "Commander, these intruders operate on frequencies we've never encountered. Our standard weapons can't touch them because they're not fully in our dimension. But maybe we can force them to stay in one place long enough to hit them hard." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You're suggesting some kind of containment field?" Carter nodded. "Exactly. If we adjust the Vanguard's internal field generators to create a harmonic barrier, we might trap them, at least temporarily. Then we can try to neutralize whatever portal they're forming." Cole tapped his comm. "Reynolds, hold your position. We're going to try a containment field. Get your people out of that corridor before we seal it." On Deck 9, Reynolds and his team scrambled back through twisted passageways, just ahead of the drifting intruder. Once they were clear, Dr. Carter activated the modified field. A dull hum reverberated through the ship's corridors, and the lights steadied. For an instant, the swirling portal on Deck 9 flickered, as if losing power. Harris's voice rang out from the bridge. "The field is holding, but it's draining power fast. We can't keep it up for long." Cole stood at the center of the bridge, shoulders tense, eyes burning with resolve. They had bought themselves a little time. Time to learn what these creatures were and how to defeat them. But one thing was already clear. This enemy was unlike any they had faced before, and the Vanguard was now a battleground for control of reality itself. The whispers of the void. A low hum vibrated through the Vanguard as the containment field worked to hold back the strange, flickering portal on Deck 9. Commander Adrian Cole kept watch on the main display, his eyes darting between power readings and incoming reports from security teams. Each passing second felt like a countdown to a disaster they barely understood. Lieutenant Harris leaned over his console, sweat beading on his brow. "Commander, the field is draining our reserves. We got maybe 10 minutes before critical systems start failing." Cole frowned. 10 minutes was not enough time to unravel the secrets of these intruders, beings who could bend reality like it was nothing. "Keep that field stable as long as you can," he replied sharply. "We need every minute." In the lab, Dr. Evelyn Carter paced around a large holo-table flickering with data. She was surrounded by engineering schematics and sensor logs, each one painting a grim picture of the intruder's abilities. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds stood beside her, arms crossed, worry etched on his face. We can't simply hold them off forever, Carter said, tapping on the holo display. Even if we seal Deck 9, they'll find another entry point. The energy they generate is too powerful to contain. Reynolds sighed. Then what do you suggest? If we turn off the field, they'll spread throughout the ship again. Carter stopped pacing and looked at him, eyes bright with an idea. I've been analyzing their dimensional signals. They seem to anchor themselves using that portal. If we can collapse it, we might force them back to wherever they came from. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. Collapsing the portal could cause a massive energy surge. We might tear a hole in the ship, or worse. True, Carter admitted, but if we do nothing, the outcome could be even worse. We have to find a controlled way to force the portal to close. Meanwhile, in the lower decks, security teams moved cautiously through corridors lit only by red emergency lights. The air felt strangely cold, and an unsettling hush made each footstep echo. Here and there, shadows moved along the walls. But when the squads turned their flashlights, there was nothing. Whispers, faint and hollow, brushed against their ears, like distant voices calling from beyond a thin veil. Suddenly, one corridor erupted in chaos. A twisted shape emerged from the metal bulkhead, sliding through as if the barrier was made of air. It reached out with a spindly arm, and a security officer screamed as they were lifted off the floor, limbs flailing. Energy blasts fired from rifles crackled harmlessly around the intruder's ghostly form. "Fall back," shouted a sergeant, his voice tight with fear. The team pulled away, dragging their injured comrade. The intruder did not pursue but lingered in the corridor, glowing eyes fixed on them. Then, with a flicker, it disappeared through the same wall it had emerged from. Up on the bridge, Cole gripped the edge of his chair. "We can't keep doing this. They're picking us off, one by one." Lieutenant Harris cleared his throat. "Commander, Dr. Carter and Lieutenant Commander Reynolds are requesting direct access to the deflector control. They say they have a plan to collapse the portal." Cole glanced at the flickering display that showed the swirling mass on Deck 9. The structural integrity around that area was dangerously low. One misstep could tear the Vanguard apart. But hesitation was no longer an option. "Give them whatever they need," Cole ordered, "and alert the engineering team to brace for energy fluctuations. If we're going to do this, we have to do it now." Within minutes, Carter and Reynolds stood in front of the deflector array's main console in engineering. Chief Engineer Patel handed them a bypass key. "We've only got one shot at this," Patel warned. "Once we overload the array, we can't turn back." Carter swallowed hard, but her hands were steady as she typed commands. "We'll channel the harmonic frequencies through the deflector dish and aim them at the portal's core. It should destabilize their dimensional link." Reynolds keyed in his security code. "We have to time this perfectly with the containment field's final pulse." He tapped his comm. "Bridge, we're ready." A tense silence fell over the Vanguard. Every heart seemed to beat in unison as they waited for the signal. On Deck 9, the swirling void crackled, arcs of crimson lightning tearing at the metal walls. Cole's voice echoed through engineering. "Activate on my mark. 3, 2, 1, now." In a flash, the deflector fired a focused beam of shimmering energy down through the decks. It punched into the portal like a spear, colliding with the storm of alien power. Sparks exploded in all directions. For a brief moment, it felt as if the entire ship would tear apart. Then, just as quickly, the storm ceased. The portal flickered and began to collapse inward, pulling in bits of shattered corridor. A final surge of light washed over Deck 9, and then vanished, leaving only scorched metal and the echo of silence. Reynolds and Carter exhaled in relief. Patil checked her monitors. "Power level stabilizing. Commander, the portal is gone." On the bridge, Cole allowed himself a small, tired smile. "Good work, everyone." But the victory felt uneasy. Yes, they had forced the intruders away. For now. Yet the cost was high, and the wounds left behind ran deep. Somehow, Cole knew this was merely the beginning of a greater conflict. The whispers of the void were not so easily silenced, and whatever lurked beyond that portal would not stay hidden forever. Secrets in the aftermath. A fragile calm settled over the Vanguard after the collapse of the portal on Deck 9. The enemy had vanished, at least for the moment, leaving behind twisted corridors and shaken crew members. Despite the damage, there was a sense of relief, a belief that the worst was over. Commander Adrian Cole stood in the ship's main corridor, surveying the aftermath. Large sections of bulkhead were charred, and emergency lights flickered, bathing the hull in a dim red glow. Crew members in protective gear worked to patch leaks and clear debris. Over the intercom, he heard teams reporting injuries and missing personnel. Cole's expression was grim as he tapped his comm. "Lieutenant Commander Reynolds, status report." Reynolds' voice came back, calm yet tense. "We've got multiple wounded, Commander. Medical teams are at full capacity in the infirmary. No confirmed casualties yet, but some of our people are still unaccounted for. We're searching every deck." "Understood," Cole said. He lowered his comm and looked around at the battered walls. The Vanguard had survived a direct confrontation with a force that bent reality. But how long could they hold out if the enemy returned? In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Patel and Dr. Evelyn Carter pored over sensor logs from the portal. The screen showed waves of data, much of it scrambled by alien energy. Carter rubbed her forehead. "This is unlike anything we studied. Their energy signatures are so erratic, it's hard to form a clear model." Patel pointed at a spike in the readings. "Look here. This pattern repeats every so often, almost like a signal trying to communicate. Could it be a message?" Carter's eyes widened. "Or a beacon. If this data is correct, they might have sent out a call before we collapsed the portal." The thought made her uneasy. A call for reinforcements, or something worse. Not far away, in a damaged cargo hold, a security team searched through crates and panels thrown about by the surge. Lieutenant Harris joined them, scanning for any sign of leftover alien activity. His handheld scanner beeped suddenly. The team followed Harris to a sealed compartment near the rear wall. Inside the compartment was a small metal box, scorched around the edges as if touched by intense heat. Its top had an unfamiliar symbol etched into it, a swirling pattern that faintly resembled the vortex they'd seen on Deck 9. Carefully, Harris lifted the lid. A wave of static crackled across the comm channels. Lights flickered, and for a moment, the outline of a tall, shadowy figure appeared at the edge of their vision, then faded. A chill ran through Harris. Whatever was inside this box seemed to resonate with the same strange power as the portal. "Commander Cole, this is Harris," he said, voice trembling slightly. "You might want to see this for yourself." Soon, Cole, Carter, and Reynolds gathered around the box in the cargo hold. Carter used a portable lab kit to test the object, scanning it from multiple angles. "It appears to be some kind of alien device. Very old, perhaps, but still active at a low level," she explained. Reynolds' jaw tightened. Could it be a key to those portals? Cole reached out, almost touching the box before pulling back. If this thing can open gates or communicate with those entities, it could be the reason they targeted Outpost Vega 9. Maybe the colony found it by accident. Carter nodded in agreement. The outpost was mainly a mining station. They might have uncovered this device and sent out that distress call when the intruders came for it. Cole inhaled slowly. He could still hear the outpost's desperate plea echoing in his mind. "They are coming. Please." That had been the beginning of everything. Now, they were left with a damaged ship and a strange artifact that could be more dangerous than any weapon. "Secure it," Cole ordered, his voice cutting through the stale air. "Set up a containment field around this device and keep it guarded at all times. We can't risk another attack on the Vanguard." Reynolds gave a firm nod. "Yes, Commander. I'll assign a round-the-clock watch." As Carter carefully lifted the box, the lights dimmed once more. A faint whisper seemed to brush against their ears, like a distant echo of alien speech. Everyone froze. exchanging uneasy glances. Cole finally spoke, his words carrying the weight of their new reality. "We've seen what they can do. If this artifact really is their link to our world, then we just became their biggest threat and their biggest target." He led the group out of the cargo hold, leaving behind a flickering overhead light and a lingering sense that they had uncovered something bigger than any of them could imagine. Despite surviving this battle, the war with the unseen enemy was far from over, and whatever secrets lay within that box could decide humanity's fate. The rift deepens. Commander Adrian Cole stood in the ship's science bay, staring at the alien box resting on a sterile metal table. A faint hum pulsed within the artifact, like a heartbeat echoing from another world. Despite the Vanguard's containment field, the device seemed to radiate an unsettling presence. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds entered the room, nodding respectfully at Cole. "Security teams are in place, Commander. We have guards stationed outside every entrance, and the corridor is sealed." Cole gave a tight smile. "Good. After what we went through, we can't take any risks. Where's Dr. Carter?" Before Reynolds could answer, Dr. Evelyn Carter hurried in, eyes gleaming with curiosity. She clutched a portable scanner and a stack of data tablets. "Commander, I've been analyzing this box nonstop. It's definitely linked to the same energy that tore open that portal. Even without direct power, it's still drawing something, like it's pulling from another dimension." Cole raised an eyebrow. "Any idea how to shut it off?" Carter hesitated. "Not yet, sir. But I have a theory that it's a key of sorts. If the intruders want it so badly, it's probably their bridge between universes. Destroying it might close the path. However, it could also trigger another surge, one we might not survive." Reynolds frowned. "So if we destroy it, we risk another portal outbreak. If we keep it, we risk another attack." "That sums it up," Carter agreed. Cole glanced at the box, its faint glow reflecting on the table's surface. "We'll have to find a safer way. Keep studying it, Doctor. Let me know if you find any vulnerabilities." Meanwhile, in the Vanguard's infirmary, survivors of the alien attack lay on beds, hooked to monitors. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Samara Whitfield moved from patient to patient, examining burn marks and strange bruises. Each injury told a story of fear and confusion. She stopped beside a crewman who stared blankly at the ceiling. "Ensign, can you hear me?" Dr. Whitfield asked gently. The man did not respond. She waved a small light in front of his eyes. Still nothing. An assistant approached, holding a data pad. "Doctor, his brain activity is spiking at odd intervals. It's almost as if he's trapped in a waking dream." With a sigh, Whitfield set her jaw. "I've seen 3 others like this. They were all near the artifact at some point. Whatever energy that box emits, it might be affecting their minds. Keep them stabilized and update me if anything changes." On the bridge, Lieutenant Harris combed through sensor data from nearby star systems. "Commander," he announced, "I'm picking up faint signals from beyond Vega 9 sector. It looks like residual traces of the same energy signature. There could be more of these artifacts, or more intruders, in the region." Cole studied the main screen, which displayed a map of space dotted with red areas. "So we're not alone out here. They might be on the move, or they could be waiting. Either way," Reynolds added, "we can't just sit here. We should track down the source of these signals before they find us first." Cole stood, straightening his uniform. "Agreed. But the Vanguard is in no shape for a full-scale conflict. We'll need to plan carefully." He tapped the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, stand by for briefing in 1 hour. We'll outline our next moves against this threat." Back in the science bay, Dr. Carter ran a new series of tests on the artifact. She connected a specialized power regulator, hoping to learn more about the device's dimensional frequencies. As she watched the readings climb, her heart pounded. "This artifact is like a doorway," she thought. "And right now, it's only cracked open. What happens if it fully swings wide?" Suddenly, the artifact pulsed brighter, causing the lights to dim. Carter gasped as her instruments flickered. For just a second, she felt something cold brush past her, a presence, invisible but undeniably real. When the light stabilized, Carter found her scanner displaying cryptic symbols, shifting on the screen before disappearing. She managed to save a snapshot of the data, her hands trembling. "Commander Cole will want to see this," she whispered, fear and curiosity mingling in her eyes. Careful not to disturb the artifact further, she backed away. Beyond the containment field, security officers watched with tense expressions, weapons at the ready. Little did they know that a far bigger threat loomed, a threat that might come pouring through another dimensional tear if the artifact continued to awaken. In that moment, it became clear. The Vanguard wasn't just fighting to stay alive. It was standing guard at the edge of two realities, with an ancient key in its possession that could either save humanity or unleash untold horrors upon the galaxy. The breaking dawn, final showdown, and conclusion. A hush fell over the Vanguard as Commander Adrian Cole assembled his key officers in the main briefing room. The tension was high, and for good reason. Their final stand against the mysterious intruders was at hand. Dr. Evelyn Carter and Chief Engineer Patel had spent the last few hours locked away, formulating a risky plan that could either save the ship or doom them all. Cole looked around the table, meeting the eyes of Lieutenant Commander Reynolds, Lieutenant Harris, Dr. Carter, and Patel. "All right," he said quietly. "This is our last chance. Let's hear it." Patel took a deep breath, pressing a button on the central holoprojector. It showed a 3D diagram of the alien artifact. "We believe the device is acting like a dimensional anchor," she explained. "As long as it's active, it keeps a doorway cracked open between our reality and the intruder's domain." Dr. Carter picked up where Patel left off. "If we try to destroy it by normal means, we might cause another uncontrolled surge, a new portal that could engulf the entire ship. But we think we found a controlled method." She gestured to a swirling pattern on the projection. "We can use the ship's deflector array to release an inverse pulse, one that will collapse the artifact from the inside out." Reynolds folded his arms, scanning the plan. "What's the risk?" Patel's mouth tightened. "High. The feedback could overload our core systems. We might lose FTL capability. Or worse." Cole considered their options. "So if we do nothing, we risk the intruders coming back in force. If we do this, we risk destroying our own ship." His gaze moved around the table. "But we can't stay in this stalemate forever. Too many lives are at stake." Everyone nodded in grim agreement. The decision was made. Within the hour, the Vanguard prepared for its final battle. Red emergency lights pulsed in time with the ship's heartbeat, and a steady warning klaxon droned in the background. Crew members hurried to their stations, double-checking each console and circuit. Medics stood ready in the infirmary, bracing for casualties. In the science bay, the alien artifact rested in its containment field, pulsing at a faster rate than before. It was as though the device sensed the crew's intentions. Shadows flickered along the walls, and faint whispers seemed to echo through the room. Dr. Carter entered, flanked by two armed security officers. She carefully placed a specialized emitter around the artifact, a small ring of metal that would carry the deflector's inverse pulse directly into the object. "Easy," she whispered, sweat beading on her forehead. She knew that if the artifact reacted violently, no one here would survive. Across the ship, in engineering, Patel and her team stood by the deflector controls, hands poised over manual switches. Lieutenant Commander Reynolds monitored internal sensors, watching for any sign of the intruders. Commander Cole took his position on the bridge, ready to command the final strike. "All stations," Cole's voice boomed over the intercom. "We begin on my mark." Harris glanced at Cole. "Commander, the artifact's energy levels are rising. It's as if it knows we're about to shut it down." Cole steadied himself. "Let's do this." He pressed the comm button. "Patel, activate the pulse." A low rumble vibrated through the Vanguard. Patel's hands flew over the controls, and the deflector array hummed with rising power. The emitter in the science bay glowed, then sent a concentrated beam of energy straight into the alien box. For a split second, the artifact shuddered. Suddenly, a flash of scarlet light engulfed the bay. The security officers raised their weapons, but they were helpless as dark shapes emerged from the artifact's glow. Intruders, tall and twisting, their limbs phasing in and out of visibility. One lunged at Dr. Carter, its claw-like arm outstretched. But in the same instant, the artifact cracked with a thunderous crunch, releasing a shockwave of bright, shimmering light. The intruders let out terrible, inhuman shrieks, their forms flickering as the dimensional link collapsed. On the bridge, Cole and Harris shielded their eyes from the dazzling glow that erupted on every screen. Reynolds watched in awe as sensor readings went haywire, then abruptly flatlined. The intruders vanished as quickly as they appeared. When the light faded, the Vanguard was eerily still. Cole rushed to the science bay, heart pounding. He found Dr. Carter on the floor, coughing but alive. The alien artifact lay in pieces, dark and lifeless. No glow, no hum, just silent wreckage. "It's over," she whispered, relief and exhaustion flooding her voice. We closed the doorway. Patel's voice came over the comm. "Commander, the reactor stabilized at the last second. Systems are damaged, but we're holding together." A weary, grateful smile spread across Cole's face. "Good work, everyone. The intruders are gone." He helped Carter to her feet. All around them, the stunned crew felt a collective wave of relief. The strange, terrifying presence was gone. For now, at least humanity was safe from the forces beyond the rift. Still, a quiet thought lingered at the edge of Cole's mind. If one artifact existed, there might be others out there. This victory could be just the start of a larger confrontation that spanned entire galaxies. But in that moment, he allowed himself to exhale and savor the hard-fought peace. The Vanguard might be battered and scarred, but it had shown the power of human resolve and earned another dawn, free from the shadows lurking in the void.